Hi, I'm Jennifer Bassett from Thrive in Grade 5, and we are going to talk about how to integrate social studies and writing. Social studies and writing can and should be taught together. I love teaching these two subjects together. That old sitcom, you can't have one without the other, that's how I feel about social studies and writing. They need to be taught together. There are big benefits to combining these two subjects. It saves time, of course. When your students write about what they've been learning in social studies, they retain so much more information and they develop a deeper understanding of the concepts you're learning in class. Writing is a different skill set than just answering short answer questions or filling in answer bubbles. Writing makes students think more critically and dive deeper into the content. Social studies writing is nonfiction writing. When you are doing any type of writing in social studies, it's usually nonfiction writing. And social studies class is the ideal place to teach your nonfiction writing. When you teach social studies correctly, your students are not only learning nonfiction writing skills, they're also learning reading skills as well. They're learning about cause and effect, compare and contrast, summarizing, sequencing, and so much more. One suggestion I have is to use the people, events, and places in your social studies curriculum to create nonfiction writing prompts. Here is one example. Georgia was founded, of course, in 1732 by James Oglethorpe. He founded Georgia as a place for English debtors to work off their debt instead of spending time in prison. Do you think work colonies would be a good alternative for prisons today? Explain your answer fully. So students will get this prompt and they will use their writing skills and what they know about social studies to answer this prompt. Another example, one of our founding fathers, Benjamin Franklin, often shared his wisdom in the form of short, wise quotes. We all love the Franklin wit, right? One example is, well done is better than well said. So you'll have your students create two short original quotes to share their own wisdom, and they have to explain the meanings behind their quotes. So this is a really good way to get students writing in your social studies class. The last example I want to share with you is when our founding fathers wrote the Constitution, they divided the federal government into three branches. We all know this, of course. How might our nation be different today if they'd created only one all-powerful branch of government? So this writing prompt, they have to use their social studies knowledge, critical thinking, to create a writing piece answering this question. If you want some more social studies journal prompts, I have 50 that are just on my blog. They're there for you to grab. I've had teachers tell me before that they just keep that tab open, and then in the mornings when they're looking for a good journal prompt, then they use one of those. So I'll put the link in the description of this video so you can find those 50 prompts easily. Use social studies facts to write fiction, poetry, narratives, and more. So mostly I use social studies for nonfiction writing, but I do use it for the fiction, poetry, because students need those writing skills also. So I recommend using facts from your social studies content to have students combine their creativity and their critical thinking to write something new. This is one of my favorite ideas for historical fiction, Dining with George and Martha at Mount Vernon. So students for the social studies part, they will go on a virtual tour of George Washington's Mount Vernon. If you go to mountvernon.org, there's a tab at the top. It'll either say virtual tour or it might be under the education tab. You can click on that, and Mount Vernon has this beautiful free virtual tour that students can do. They'll be able to see the mansion house and outbuildings and some of the agricultural areas. So have students do a virtual tour, have them gather facts about Mount Vernon, check out some of the landmarks, look at dining room decor in the mansion house. And when students sit down to write, they are going to combine what they know about George and Martha Washington with what they saw on the virtual tour to create a fictional account of dining with the Washington family at Mount Vernon. So this idea pulls in historical fiction, also research skills, creativity, critical thinking. They're probably also going to include some dialogue. This prompt brings in lots of social studies and writing skills. Another way that I combine social studies and writing is by using social studies topic to teach research skills. Fifth graders do not like to research. That's just a fact. Every once in a while, you'll find that unicorn student that says, oh boy, let's do a research project. But most of our students are going to groan when we say we're starting a research project. But we can make it painless. We can help students break down the research process and make those steps easier. If you just take it one step at a time and do lots of modeling, we can help students learn how to research fairly easily. This blog post breaks down the steps that I use to teach the research process, and I even uploaded some videos that you can either show students or use them to guide yourself as you teach the research process. And I'll put the link to this in the video description too. Quotes. I absolutely love using history-themed quotes with my students. I even use quotes for decoration in my classroom. Quotes are short, powerful reinforcements for what students are learning in class. They have to use their critical thinking skills to respond to quotes. And they also have to use what they know about social studies people and events and topics and time periods to interpret those quotes. Whenever I have my students respond to a quote, they come up with the most amazing, insightful responses. Your fifth graders will surprise you with how insightful they are when they are interpreting quotes. John Adams, 1777, this is one of my very favorite quotes to use with students after we have gone through the Revolutionary period and we are into, new government constitution. He says, "You will never know how much it cost my generation to preserve your freedom. I hope you will make a good use of it." So we will usually read through that quote a couple of times, and then I have my students, without a lot of guidance, I just tell them, I want you to respond to this quote in your journal. Some of the students will zoom in on how much it cost my generation to preserve your freedom. And they're going to talk about the sacrifices and the difficulties and the frustrations that founding generation faced. And then other students are going to zoom in on make a good use of it. And they're going to talk about how can we make a good use of our freedom today? Are we making a good use of our freedom today? After they write about this quote for a little while, I ask them, would the founders approve of the state of our nation today? Explain what you think about that. Is this what they envisioned? What do we know about John Adams? Why was he qualified to make this statement? What did John Adams give up when he was, helping to found the United States? I do have this quote image bundle, and what I do is I print them on photo paper, 8x8 size, like at Office Depot or Staples, and I put them in, just a simple frame, and I use these quote images in some of my decoration in my classroom. Free writing and writing choice, very important in social studies class. We shouldn't always be grading students' writing. We should give them the opportunity to just write without worrying about punctuation and structure and grading. They need a little time to just write for the fun of it, to get their ideas down on paper and express their thoughts. One way that I use free writing is I give students a wide topic and I have them free write on something within that wide topic. So for example, I might say you have 10 minutes to free write on one aspect of the New England colonies. So your students are going to come up with so many different narrow aspects that they want to write about. Some of them will write about Puritans or shipbuilding, town meetings, artisans, Anne Hutchinson, Roger Williams, the climate, the poor soil of the New England colonies. They will come up with so many different narrow topics to write about if you just give them a little bit of free writing time. Asking students to write using various perspectives is a great way to include social studies in your writing. I know that considering multiple viewpoints and perspectives is an ELA standard, a writing standard, and a social studies standard in most states. So having your students think critically about different viewpoints surrounding an event or a time period or a place is so valuable in social studies. One way that I do this is I use the Boston Tea Party. Students are always so excited to learn about the Boston Tea Party, and they remember the details of this event so well. So this is a really easy topic to include those multiple perspectives and viewpoints. So I will have them usually work in pairs or in small groups to write a paragraph response from these individuals. Usually there's 5. Usually I'll let them pick 3 or 4 perspectives that they want to write from. So one might be a casual, impartial observer who witnessed the Boston Tea Party, a participating member of the Sons of Liberty, a loyalist living near Boston. So all 3 of those people so far are going to have very different perspectives on this event, right? A tax collector whose job was to collect the taxes owed on the tea. That's going to be an interesting perspective to write from, isn't it? A member of Parliament. So, of course, Parliament is in England. So a member of Parliament would be hearing about the event secondhand, reading accounts of it. So their perspective might be a little different. We know that they dole out some punishment to Boston after the Tea Party. So their perspective is probably going to be more from the angry, frustrated side. So definitely build your critical thinking to write from different perspectives. So try to include that in your social studies and writing whenever you can. Teach students how to write biographies. Well, biographies are such a common thing in social studies, of course. Teaching students how to write biographies gives really good writing practice. Students have to choose the most important facts and details from their subject's life and synthesize all of that information into a manageable, readable biography. definitely includes those research skills too, because you've got to research your person's life. My students really actually enjoy writing biographies. We do a biography deep dive activity, usually if I have time, a couple times a year. So they choose a person to write about. Very motivating for them to be able to choose the person they're going to write a biography about. They do some research, and then they keep refining the information that they have about this person to be able to write a concise biography. It's not super long, it's not book length. Their biographies usually end up being a page or less, but they synthesize the information so well, and they only choose the most important aspects to complete the biography. I have a post that'll tell you exactly, what steps I use to do the biography deep dive, and it also comes with a list of individuals that I suggest for the deep dive. I also want to make sure you know, if you are looking for more help teaching social studies in your upper elementary class, I do have a course that is self-paced. It's not super long, but it'll help you to be able to teach social studies confidently and, be able to examine your standards and understand what you're supposed to teach and make a plan and be ready to go to teach your upper elementary social studies. I will add the link into the description of this video. Okay, well, I hope that this video has been helpful and that you've learned a lot of ideas on how to combine social studies and writing. I hope to see you again soon.